Hello, 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 hello. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pro Wrestling Podcast, in my opinion, number 4. That's right, we're on episode 4. And wow, I have a really cool guest for you. But before we get to that, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in so far. We got 2. So I appreciate that a lot. Hopefully some comments will be rolling in here pretty soon. Yep, we got Kenny from the call up saying you're sorry if I butchered that. But yes, as I was saying in the beginning, got a very, 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 very cool guest with me today. He's also a Chicago-based wrestling podcaster. I've seen him, met him at a lot of shows, and he has basically been like, what do you call it, familiar face everywhere I go. And I asked him if he wanted to join. He said we would. There was some scheduling conflict, but we got that settled. So now we're back. So please welcome, guys, without further ado, please welcome Mr. Sean Lennon from the Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast. What is up, my man? What is up?
What's up, man? Doing good, enjoying the holidays.
Yeah.
A little bit, watching some wrestling, watching other stuff too, though. I got covered on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to get burned out, man. After a
Yeah.
while, you start getting burned out. How was your Christmas though?
It was good, man. Just stayed home, basically with family, and yeah, just been staying home lately. I'm looking forward to AAW, which is coming up, Thursday night. So finally get a wrestling show, before the new year. So I'm excited for that, and excited just to talk with you, man. On the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Appreciate what you're doing, and so love to the Pro Wrestling Podcast as well.
That's awesome. So for people who don't know about your podcast, why don't you go ahead and what do you got upcoming that you're excited about?
I got a lot of content that I haven't released yet. I got stuff from Warrior Wrestling that I did. I did an interview with Sam Adonis from La Impresa. He's from AAA and NWA as well. And yeah, I got to count up with him. He was on a busy schedule that week. I think he had wrestled been to 4 different cities in about 7 days.
Holy shit.
Something like that. So yeah, I'm glad he was able to make the time. And yeah, we got to talk to Mercedes Martinez on camera. She did a shout out for the show, which was real cool.
Nice.
First time I've had anything like that with her on. I hope we get an interview. I'm not sure. I got to contact Impact Wrestling, but yeah, just getting ourselves out there. We had the podcast with you and Mike from Windy City Slam, so we'll have to get that out too. So we got a lot of stuff that we're getting out that's older content, but for newer content, I mean, my latest interview was Vic Capri, the Ice Pick, and that was a emotionally charged interview. Got to talk to him, and yeah, I'm excited for a new year. I'm excited just to see more wrestling events. When we got wrestling, can't beat it.
Right. Well, I couldn't think of the better way to end 2021 on, in my opinion, than to have you on, because I was saying at the beginning, man, you've been the familiar face of every show I've been to, and you're really cool. So it just fits for you to be on here. Plus, you got some good questions from that we can debate from what I see. Yeah. So that's always a plus on this show. So what do you think about going ahead and getting this started, my man?
Sounds good.
All right. So first question on for me would be. Was WWE always this hard to watch, and we just couldn't see it as a kid, or was it actually good, or was it actually as good as we remember?
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Right. Because there's a lot of kids out there now who claim that this is the greatest show they've ever seen in their life. And it's you ask any little kid, it's just, they love it. They love the shit out of it, which I used to be one of the, I'm assuming you used to be one of those kids too. So yeah I just kind of wanted to get your take on it.
Well, I just think WWE when basically when I was a teenager, the Attitude Era came along, and I wasn't huge into wrestling before then. Like I was, like I used to watch it now and then, like the Golden Era and stuff. But when the Attitude Era came along, everybody tuned in, and it was like so special. It was like they were just everything was like reality based in terms of their storylines. Everything was more like focused on adult, maturity level, and I enjoyed it. A lot of fans did, and when the Attitude Era kind of ended, a lot of wrestling fans they tuned out. They just stopped watching WWE completely. It was only like the loyal ones that kept watching. I was one of the loyal ones that still kept watching. And I know it wasn't the same, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. And, I got to experience like WrestleMania. I actually go to WrestleMania for the first time back in 2003. And like that was this amazing experience. If you haven't been to WrestleMania yet, you should go. And so like I think like when I look back at like my years of being a WWE fan, it was mostly I didn't really go to the events like right when it was like Attitude Era, but it was like shortly thereafter I started going to the events, started bonding with other fans. We would go to all the big pay-per-views that were in Chicago at the time, even travel for some of the pay-per-views like WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, it was like a big show like that. And so like I think at the time we didn't realize it, but WWE, it was just a brand that was like ingrained, with us, like growing up. Like we're just used to the superstars, the characters. We're used to like, how they did things.
Right.
And
We're used to the formula.
yeah, the formula, exactly. And so I think like when we look back at it, like I wouldn't say like it wasn't for us. Like I would say, basically us fans, we found what we were looking for in the WWE at the time. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
whatever we were looking for, they provided it. And you have to realize it does change over time. It's become more PG. It's gone through a lot of creative changes throughout the years, and that's what we've, what we have now. And right now I don't have a lot of interest in WWE, but I feel like that they are always going to be around because they provide, family entertainment. They're different than All Elite Wrestling or what else is out there because, they're going to be more, appealing for kids. I think that, I don't think I want to insult the audience and say, oh, well, they realize that what they were watching at the time, was that the same as it is now? And I think it's different. I think it's cyclic, or it goes through cycles, and they were able to connect with an audience over a decade ago, and they did it so well. And
Mm-hmm.
from then it unfortunately just started disconnecting quite a bit.
It's
If
weird
that makes
because
sense.
no, yeah, it's weird because when like me and you, we get older, they get younger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like their audience went younger as we got
Mhm.
older. So I get
Right.
that. I get that whole like what you're trying to say. Uh,
Right.
but I mean, there's been some times where I'll go back like on the network. Not recently, but like you said, I kind of try to get away from the whole WWE thing. But
Right.
I'll go back and watch something from like Ruthless Aggression era, and I'm thinking it's like one of the greatest moments of all time, and it was just okay. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because I think when you're a kid, you hype it up so much that well, first of all, you think it's real, when
Hmm.
you're a kid. And these kids nowadays probably think this is all real, and but that's why I say that's a question. Like I was asking, like, do we think it was actually as good as we thought it was? And maybe it was, but
Yeah.
uh, but now, like nowadays, I would say that it's not meant for us, and that that's okay.
Yeah.
It's
I
not good.
mean, yeah. I mean, it depends like what characters you connected with. I mean, it was Shawn Michaels at the time, Triple H, The Undertaker. It's look at the draws that they had back then, and nobody reaches that level today. So
No.
that's another thing is when you go back and look at Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. How can it's so unfair to compare today's WWE to back then, and so it's just I feel like they were playing at a whole nother level with these larger than life characters. They connected with the audiences at that base level, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, would lift up his arms to pour down beer, telling the common guy all the way, in the upper level, like, this one's for you, They had to be larger
Hmm.
than life. They had to connect with everyone in the arena, not just, who had good seats. And I just feel like I love that era. I love that when they would thank the fans, like Mick Foley would thank the fans, say, hey, about you guys, we wouldn't do what we're doing. And I think that resonated with us back then. I believe the wrestlers were the superstars, right? Had more of a
Yeah.
connection with the fans back then. I think they had
They
way more
did.
of a yeah, and so whether the matches hold up or not, what definitely holds up is that connection.
That that's a beautiful way to put it, man. That's a
Yeah,
beautiful way to put it. I just my thing is my thought process is just like where did it like obviously the attitude era worked and for the most part the ruthless aggression era worked.
right,
So why wouldn't they just take that and continue on with it? Like, well, I mean, obviously the PG era came around, right?
right.
But like, I mean, can we just say like besides the parents and the kids, like nobody really likes that era or likes this era.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had some bright, moments from the PG era. You had like the Miz.
They're so few and far between,
Yeah,
though.
they are. They are. But I also think that the WWE they felt like they had a pivot because they were losing in the ratings, and whenever they're losing in the ratings, there you go, John Cena era, and that's who we didn't get to yet. Was
Some people
and
did
so
say that he did ruin
yeah,
it.
I mean, a lot of people didn't like him,
No.
and it was visible by by how they booed him out of the building, especially in Chicago.
Yeah.
But but I think overall it was they basically had to pivot because they had to change because they were losing in the ratings. I don't know have the numbers specifically, but I know that they weren't doing great during that time. And so that's why they went totally PG. Also, they because of Linda McMahon and she was running for the Senate at the time, and that was the reason why they had to clean up the company and make it look like that too, for, for the failed Senate run. So you got all those factors that combine, and I don't think the networks were that thrilled. Like USA Network, I heard that they love the edgier stuff from the WWE. When I go
Hmm.
back and I listen to like podcasts like Southern Wrestle Wave and stuff, I feel like the networks were in agreement with that direction, or else they wouldn't have featured WWE on their programming at the time.
Uh,
But
yeah, I mean,
since
because
then,
that's what
I just think
drew.
it's just turned. Yeah. Hmm.
That's what drew. I like at
I
this
think they
point,
just got
like,
more into. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, right. Like, I think that's what drew. Because at this point, I feel like I'm just watching a Nickelodeon show with wrestling.
Hmm.
Just the comedy so bad. I can't remember the last time I actually laughed at something in today's WWE or
Right.
uh, I mean for the most part, but that's not the talent's fault. It's just that
Right.
like every match is so dry. Like there's nothing to look forward to really. And I don't
I mean,
know
the
if
last time, yeah, the last time that WWE really appealed to me, it's been a while. It's probably been over 10 years ago since it really appealed to me. I mean, I think the whole John Cena and Rock, I think that was interesting about 10 years ago. You had those two
yeah.
ginormous egos and, the way they would play off each other when you bring the Rock back and that run he had. The Rock is obviously going to draw the old fans in, and I felt like that was the last time that I was really engaged with WWE is when they had The Rock there, he was wrestling. He was taking on CM Punk, and he was taking on John Cena, and they made Fruity Pebbles. They made all these comments towards each other in front of their
Right.
Hollywood careers. That was great. Their whole war on Twitter, that was great. Like that, and the Miz got involved too. Like that's what they needed to connect with the audience at the time, and they were doing that.
And now they do that with John Cena and Goldberg, but it's all for just like a cheap nostalgia pop, so people can go, "Oh, hey, that's a guy I used to watch. I'll tune in," and then he's gone. He's there for a month and then he's gone. But yeah, I mean that's interesting, man. So it isn't the fact that once we got older and it got bad. It's just that it's not. It's subjective at this point.
Yeah,
right.
I'd say so. Yeah, and when All Elite Wrestling came, I knew that they were going to come through and deliver something that fans weren't likely to have seen before. It was fresh, it was innovative, and that's why WWE is now having half empty buildings that they're playing to. And it's kind of sad at a certain point. To me, I feel kind of sad when I see it. It's not like I'm happy and like enthusiastic about it.
Right, because you want like I loved WWE when I was a kid, so you like want them to succeed. You don't want them to fail. Like I think that's what everybody gets misconstrued sometimes is that it's fun. I mean, it's funny to hear that they're doing this stuff, like giving people applications to fill in seats. I mean, but like it shouldn't have ever come to that. But you brought up an interesting point. And you brought up another company who's basically, for lack of a better word, thriving and kind of doing what WWE did back in the day, just more suppressed, and that's AEW. And they, when they first started, they signed all these people, people like Joey Janela, people like Sonny Kiss, people like the list goes on and on. And one of the arguments that a lot of people make that you made to me earlier today was they're not featured as much anymore. And right. And what's your thought on that? Why do you think that?
Well, I think they're signing so many more new talents, all the time now, and especially they just signed Kyle O'Reilly. They had Adam Cole. It's funny how Kyle O'Reilly. I have the NXT calendar, and like for the month of September, Adam Cole was the picture for that month, and then for December it was Kyle O'Reilly. So that was just like foreshadowing, I guess.
That's awesome.
and so I feel like a lot of the older the talents, they're not probably going to get re-signed at this point when their contracts are up. I don't think they're like released like soon, but they're probably at the time they had a place in AEW and now they don't. I mean, but there's still great talent that you've got Angelico. You've got,
right.
His tag team partner,
Jack Evans.
Jack Evans. You've got, Sonny Kiss, Joey Janela. It's like, what happened to these guys? Even Private Party. These guys were featured on Dynamite like every week, and they were a big part of it. And now they're just kind of pushed to the wayside because there's so much more talent coming in. And you saw the comments Eddie Kingston made about new talent coming in. That's not, that's not the reason why you're not thriving. You know what I mean? You got to do better or something like that. He made some kind of comment about that.
Oh, I see. His argument that you're just not doing enough to get yourself over.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
because
so
it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
So I think that there's still a lot of great wrestlers that aren't being featured, and it kind of sucks. But that's the cyclical nature of the business. Is they gotta they want to bring in more talent. They want to get more people to watch them, and there's a great opportunity for them to come over. I don't know who else is going to come over, but it's exciting. It's an exciting time, and it's to be a wrestling fan.
Do they need more people though?
I don't think they need any more at this point, but
Because this is what Kenny says. With so many stars coming into AEW, I wonder if Tony Khan is still signing talent to Dark.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a good point too, because it's not just Rampage and Dynamite
Right.
that they can go to. They can do their little thing, maybe like a one-off on Dark or a couple of months on Dark
Right.
till they find something else, or they go to an NXT tryout or something like that. Something, I don't know. Like, I just don't want them to get like the pipeline get filled up, and then that like you said, they don't know what to do with half of these people. Like,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that Jack Evans and Helico, who are very talented, aren't really featured on there. And usually it's because they're injured, or it's just because people aren't into them. People
Yeah.
people are just more into the names that they're familiar with, like a Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, stuff. People, because it's like, I don't know. Some fans are like babies. Like, if you dingle a key in front of them enough, they're gonna laugh and like it for a long time, and it's just like, it doesn't matter if you switch the hand, they're still gonna like
Yeah.
it. So it's like, they don't want to spend the time to get to know these people who they've only known on AEW. They want to spend time, and because we already know these people. We already know Kyle O'Reilly. We already know so and so. It's just like, so why do I want to waste my time getting to know somebody else if they're not willing to let us know who they are? I mean, I think Tony Khan, for the most part, tries his best to get people on the show. Like, he'll put them in factions. For instance, QT, he's got Aaron Solo. He's got see, he's got a bunch of people there, but it's
Yeah.
like
You got Anthony Ogogo.
Anthony Ogogo. Yeah, it's like he tries his best, but I think he can only do so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the originals that came through. I mean, Nyla Rose is still used. I would say Jade Cargill's an original because she's never came from anywhere else. She's pretty over. Chris Statlander, basically all those women. Britt Baker, Orange Cassidy. It's just like, you got to stand out at some point. You got to try. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's my take on it. Got a counterpoint there?
I would say that although these guys are not featured on Dynamite as much as they used to be, I still think that they've had a solid run, and you know what, they had a good time. AEW provided them a platform that they probably didn't think they'd ever have, because these guys were not featured on WWE or NXT for the most part. So I feel like that's what AEW did provide them at the time. I'd like to see more of AEW doing different kind of storylines though to feature them. Maybe have more backstage segments, or more battle royals. I mean, it's just kind of sad. Like you may like, this was the future. We signed these talents specifically in mind for them being the future, and then they're just not being used anymore. But
I
I
think
feel
also,
like Marco Stunt, Joey Janela, they run their own wrestling companies. They're busy anyway with other things too. So some of them have jobs outside of AEW.
Yeah, you also got to factor in like the age of them too, because I think like Jack Evans is like 38 or some shit. Like, he's almost in his 40s, and it's like, how long can your body take doing all that stuff before you just like want to just relax or do a couple indie shows here and there and then fuck off? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, it's definitely about the younger students.
Yeah, and there's plenty of them. Like, I would love to see more. I said this on another podcast, but I would love to see more Lee Moriarty
Hmm.
because as of right now, I feel like Hook's another one too. I don't know if you like Hook or not,
Yeah, he's solid.
but
And Lee Moriarty was in AEW Dark this week.
right.
Yeah.
So, but I like to see
So
him more on like Dynamite, Rampage,
yeah.
stuff like that. I've seen more Hook than I've seen Lee Moriarty, and
No.
yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to switch that up a little bit.
Yeah. They need to feature Lee Moriarty more. And there's always going to be criticism. They're not perfect. AEW is by no means like the perfect. There is no perfect promotion, But do they get a lot of stuff right that WWE doesn't? Yeah, I believe they do.
Yeah, for sure. Like, they know how to, for the most part, pace a story out so that we're interested in it
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But this is nothing new. Everybody and their mother with a podcast has said the same thing about AEW, unless you just straight up hate AEW, which I mean,
Right.
more power to you. That's your choice, I guess. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's just like, yeah, I mean, not to pivot away from all that because I think we got our points across. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but Kenny says, would love to see Sting and CM Punk. They're so young and they are going to be big stars. Whatever, Kenny. Speaking of places where young stars can go to do their craft and do stuff like that, one of the places that we've been to, me and you together, is a little place called Warrior Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so one of the questions I wanted to ask you, so I can get your take on it, if Warrior Wrestling continues to grow
Yeah.
and uh, like they're doing and going to place instead of just being exclusive to just the Chicago area, what do you think the next step is for them? Are they going to try to be like a global thing, or are they going to try to be like a national thing, or are they just doing this tour thing for like a little bit and then they're going right back to Chicago? And before
Yeah,
you
that's
answer, I'm sorry, Sting and Hooker are the same age. Okay, going off the rails here.
Yeah, Warrior Wrestling. If anybody hasn't checked it out yet, do so. I've been able to. That's one of the highlights of my wrestling fandom, wrestling podcast career is just going there and going to these shows for Warrior Wrestling. They're exciting. They're bringing in great talent, and the fact they have Will Ospreay as the Warrior Wrestling champion speaks volumes of where they're trying to position themselves. And I think they are trying to be a major independent promotion in US. I think that they're going to travel mostly around the Midwest area. I think they're not just afraid to try different things too. I mean, I think it's too soon for them to go this year, but I think one year they will want to be part of like the WrestleMania weekend. I could see Warrior Wrestling doing that. Maybe not this year. South Bend isn't too far from like Chicago area. I looked it up, so it's
Mm-hmm.
but again, when you do that, you kind of have the issue of, are you going to alienate your home base, and you heard, they were not happy that
Nobody
South
liked that.
Bend were wrestling, right? But I think over time they're going to get over it. I think Warrior Wrestling is it wants to go different places. I've talked to the promoter before about it, and he's down to go to different markets. They've actually ran a show in South Bend before, but it was more like it was a joint show of Impact Wrestling. So it's not like the very first time that because they were under it was under Warrior Wrestling, but it was also under Impact Wrestling. But it's the first time they're doing this on their own. They're going all the way out to the South Bend, and yeah, I could see them, definitely testing different markets, because what they're bringing is a great independent wrestling show. Like, it doesn't feature just local talent; it features talent from all over the nation and even all over the world. I mean, they're bringing guys from New Japan. They bring Will Ospreay. among other great talent. They've had Rocky Romero there. They've had, the list goes on and on. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just crazy, World Wrestling and the matches you get to see, all the lucha action. So it definitely makes sense for them to go test different markets. And I think that the next step will be, like I said, I think that they're going to look to go to like where there's a big wrestling collection of wrestling events like a WrestleMania. They're going to look to go there. I think this year is too soon, but I think that they're going to be in position to do that next year, and it'll be part of like the WrestleMania weekend. Because I mean, all the
I
talent is going to be out there anyway for like all the WrestleCon signings and all the other shows. So it would make sense perfect for them to have that national exposure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence about the whole thing because honestly, I like the fact that it could have been or it could be like a PWG for Chicago because they get some big names like PWG does all the time, but they're just like always exclusively in California or
Right.
in the LA area. So it's like I'm happy for them, but at the same time, uh, I just now got to know them, and I wish they would just like kind of stay where they've been at. And but that's just me selfishly saying that. I know that we still got AEW, but sometimes they jump ship to they go to Iowa sometimes, right?
Very rarely. Very rarely.
But right,
Like once
but
their whole shows are usually either Bourbon Street or in Logan Square.
uh, but
Yeah.
I guess we'll have that AEW, but I just love how I do love how it's becoming like larger than life now. It's pretty nice. But like I said, I'm just on the fence about them jumping because we both heard the crowd when they announced they were going to South Bend, and then they said the world,
Yeah.
and everybody's like, okay, well, one thing at a time, buddy, one thing at a time. But it's like, no, I totally respect that. I just, I don't know. They've had, well, I mean, what was their biggest show? It was 16, and then this one that did a big draw.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say
Okay.
both those shows did very well. I mean,
Yeah.
every Warrior show is usually it does well. I mean, 15, 14, 13, the Stadium Series. I mean, they're always doing well. There's always a huge crowd.
And they did that without most of the wrestlers that were supposed to show up actually being there, which is
Yeah.
impressive as well. Like it's like we talked about this on your show not too long
Yeah.
ago, and how there was a couple of people that didn't show up, and it was it was disheartening. So like if they're gonna do this this brings up a good point. If they're gonna do this tour, mind you, then I guess they would have to make sure that every talent that they announce needs to be there, because otherwise
Yeah.
people are going to travel a very long while. Like in South Bend, like you said, it's not far, but if they go somewhere else, they're going to go pretty far to a place and get disappointed that they're not going to see the match that they specifically went there for. So,
Right.
you're going to fall under that. So hopefully, I wish them the best, but it's cool, but also, yeah. One of the other things that we wanted to talk about while we were on here together was is speaking of all that, like, is wrestling as a whole popular than it's ever been, or is it just the indies? Like, is the indies
I think
thriving? Yeah.
yeah, I think what I think is that with AEW, it's when you look at the ratings and how well they're doing, people do tend to get carried away, and they think there's been a whole influx of new fans that have
Mm-hmm.
got into pro wrestling, and I don't think that's quite the case. I think it's like the fans that were into WWE, they kind of switched over to AEW, and
Right.
I don't think there's like any like I if there is I think this percentage is very low of like people that didn't watch wrestling at all. There's some that maybe didn't watch for like 5 years and then they got back into it because of AEW, but I think those numbers are very small. I think it's still the same base of wrestling fans that have grown into AEW from WWE, but I don't think it's a huge influx of new fans. And so I would say it's pretty much, I think, the indies. Independent wrestling is getting more and more popular. People are more willing to shell out money for a ticket and go to it. People have, we've got the documentaries like Dark Side of the Ring that featured Nick Gage, and so people want to check out like deathmatch wrestling, and people are, even if you feature like one old wrestler.
Uh-oh.
Did
we lose?
Go to the show so they can so they can check out the show and then meet their favorite wrestler from back in the day. So I think that helps as well.
I'm not gonna lie, man.
Yeah.
You cut out, and your face was just like this. So I didn't hear any of that.
Okay, so I was gonna say is I don't think there's a new influx of wrestling fans as they might have hoped there would be. I think it's mostly like wrestling fans pivoting from WWE to AEW. I think that the independent wrestling shows are huge. The fact that you can watch Vice TV, you can watch the Nick Gage documentary on there from the Dark Side of the Ring, and that gives exposure. You can also see like the legends of the past at your local independent wrestling show, and I think that draws a number of fans that want to meet that person, that want to see that person. Like AAW had the Sandman. Someone was like, I haven't seen the Sandman since the 90s, and that'll get them to come. So I think that independent wrestling has grown. With influx of social media interactivity with pro wrestling today, which is huge. I think that it's really grown as independent wrestling.
Now, when I first started doing this podcasting thing with a ex buddy of mine, it almost felt like that summer when Punk came back that there was more people tuning in, and it gave me this perception that maybe it is going to get back to where it was, where you had like 5 million people watching every week and stuff like that. But then as you're doing this, and I mean, I didn't even realize this till like maybe last week that it hasn't changed. No. And my perception of it being bigger than it was, at least on the TV standpoint, is not reality. And it just became like, holy shit, maybe it isn't. It's just the indies. So I totally agree with you 100%, because yes, you get to see like matches that you wouldn't normally see, or the people from yesteryear that used to wrestle are now there for like a 5-minute match, and then they dip, and then you can take pictures with them, and there's so much more interaction. You get those fan to talent interactions. So yeah, I completely agree. It's one of those things where I think when I think the indie scene is doing great, then all wrestling is doing great, but that's not the reality.
True.
And we just talked about that earlier with WWE not being so great, but the kids love it. If you ask a kid, it's the greatest thing on earth. It's the most popular thing he's ever been a part of. So there goes that perception. Perception is reality. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, man. Speaking of reality, I don't have anything. I don't have any other questions to ask you.
I was going to ask, have you checked out Major League Wrestling at all?
Major League Wrestling, yeah. What's up? Yeah. What's happening over there? Are you have a match?
No. Me?
Yeah.
I was just saying people should check it out. I think it's a badass show.
Right, and there's other shit too. Like you can watch so much wrestling on YouTube. I mean, they got a show every Wednesday before Dynamite on YouTube called Fusion Alpha, which is it's really good. I mean, Jacob Fatu's on there. If you're not familiar with him, great talent, man. He's like
Yeah.
the most agile, biggest dude I've ever seen. Like in the wrestling ring, he's like Umaga, but with like a different what do you call it? Different style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's
it's just
great.
so like you got Alex Hammerstone, which apparently Chicago Rob doesn't. Yeah, he was talking shit to
Yeah.
him during the show, but he talks shit to everybody. But it's
Yeah.
like I don't know, man. It's just it's a good time for indie for sure. Uh,
Definitely.
what do we got to look forward to as far as indie shows coming in Chicago? Because I know you got the fucking scoop, man, every time. Besides AAW, of course. Hello.
I think everybody should check out Warrior Wrestling, which is going to be on the 22nd. Drive over to Indiana. I know I am going to, so I'll be making it.
Hey,
As long as it's like in the area, I'll go.
hey, are you
2
going
hours
to
is gonna kill me.
are you going to GCW?
Yes, guess what I was gonna mention too. Game Changer Wrestling for Say You Will. Yeah, I got in the second row for that one.
Me
So I'm
too,
excited.
bro.
You
Hey, I'm gonna
do?
see you
Oh,
there, bro. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, nice.
I'm gonna see you
Yeah,
there. I
that's
don't
gonna
even
be a
care.
Game Changer Wrestling. Everything Game Changer Wrestling's been doing has been great too. Everybody should check them out. I just saw the last show they did, Blood in the Hills. They had Jonathan Gresham versus AJ Gray for the ROH title. They had Bussy.
Oh my god.
They get on the Cardonas. They had Chelsea and Zach. Oh, Matt Cardona.
Matt.
Zach.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying people don't know. Matt,
Yeah, yeah,
who's
yeah,
Matt
yeah.
Cardona. Zach Ryder. That show was crazy. And Blake Christian and Alex Zane, and then the main event, Jordan. I actually got to watch that match again. Jordan Oliver and Atticus Kogar in a barbed wire match, which was crazy. So like I like to catch up on GCW because I don't necessarily watch it live, and so I like to catch up on their pay-per-view events.
Mhm.
And yeah, that Say You Will is going to be great. I mean, the Briscoes are going to be in town. Kylie Ray is going to take on Alley Cat.
Yeah,
Jonathan
she's
Gresham,
coming back.
yeah, Jonathan Gresham is defending the Ring of Honor title against Too Cold Scorpio.
That should be
Flash
good.
Funk, as he was at the birthdays. Yeah, that's going to be great as
Uh,
well. And so, yeah, I'm pumped. And PCO is going to be there from Ring of
oh,
Honor.
now that we're on this topic, good question actually. What do you think
Mhm.
the future is going to hold for that GCW title? Are they going to relinquish it?
For GCW.
Yeah, because you know how John Moxley is the champion right now.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think John Moxley comes back and hopefully at the collective in April and defends
Okay.
it against Nick Gage. That's what I think will happen, or he'll show up at least. But another thing is Nick Gage really hasn't been featured at Game Changer Wrestling for like the past few months. He hasn't done a
That's
single
right. I
show.
haven't seen him.
Yeah,
Wow. That's right.
yeah,
So maybe
they're going to go to Madison Square Garden without him in February too, and that's going to be one of their bigger shows.
is he going to be a Hammerstein though?
That's what I was saying. I'm not Hammerstein, and I'm a Hammerstein, not Madison Square Garden.
Oh,
A Hammerstein, because the Hammerstein Ballroom is not too far from Madison Square Garden. But
okay.
no, he's not.
I don't know that, but yeah.
So, yeah, they're not going to be part of the Hammerstein Ballroom show. So
Oh,
Nick Gage,
wow.
yeah, he's I don't know, some personal stuff going on. I'm not sure. but he's
I mean, it could be. It could be
definitely.
also because Moxley's not in the picture, so there's no point of him showing up if the guy he wants to
Yeah,
face for the title is not there.
but still, he's wrestled all kinds of different matches and stuff. So
Right. He's
it's
also the
something.
face of the fucking company
Right,
for the most part. Yeah.
exactly. And they had the Nick Gage Invitational without him when they were in Chicago.
That's weird.
Yeah, they used him for all the commercial, use and everything, and then didn't feature him. So yeah, I think questions will be answered. Hopefully, maybe at the Hammerstein Ballroom show, but I think probably in April, John Moxley will come back.
That's weird because you hate to think about it, but the last time a wrestler just vanished out of thin air and nobody knew what was happening, it turned out that he died, like Brody Lee.
Right.
So I'm hoping like he's healthy and everything's good. But
Yeah, as well.
while we're winding down here, man, why don't you go ahead and plug yourself on social media so people can find you?
Definitely check out Pro Wrestling.
Let's do take two.
On,
Take two because you're cutting out.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, just check out Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast on Instagram, on Twitter at PW Enforcer Pod on Twitter, and also on Facebook, like our Facebook page as well, and like the Fight League Report YouTube channel. That's where we post all of our video content, and it's as you know, it's tough to keep up that video content as well. So yeah, I appreciate you having me on the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Thank you guys, and please follow us. We have also Pro Wrestling Tees store as well. So if you want one of these bad boys, come and get them. Pro Wrestling Tees.
Of course, you got a Pro Wrestling Tees, man. I'm still working on that. Hey, were you part of that? Hey, did you? Not for nothing though. Did you hear about the fucking?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, did that affect you at all? Are you good?
No, I didn't get a mail. They didn't even notify anyone unless they were apparently targeted. But they notified them through the mail, not email. You would think they would do that email. So I hadn't gotten one of those letters.
Yeah, hopefully it didn't get lost in the mail. Like, you know what I mean? No,
yeah,
but Toe says, plug your stuff. Okay, now freeze them up. You were freezing, so it was like, but all right. Hey, thank you for coming on, man. This has been fun. Guys, next week, same time, same place. Please tune in. I'm actually going to have this guy and the whole crew, hopefully the whole crew, hop on Tuesday, and we're gonna debate. We're probably gonna debate some John Cena versus Hulk Hogan type shit because they love to talk about those motherfuckers all the time. So yeah, thanks Sean again, and for everyone else, see you guys later.
All right, take care, guys.